Council, welcome to the meeting of February 8th, 2023. Members of the delegation and presenters are welcome extends to you as well. We'll get this meeting on the go. Today's meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting. Members of the public are invited to participate at this meeting electronically by contacting the clerk to receive a registration link. Members of the public may also attend the meeting in person at the municipal office at 153 McKellar Street, Glencoe, Ontario. And today's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Before we begin, we'll give a short and brief land acknowledgement, but a sincere one. We will begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and region of Southwest Middlesex. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past, and partnerships that are yet to come. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof of any member? Okay, we can move on. Additions to the agenda. There is one deletion regarding the payment on Old Drive to Miller Paving. That has been pulled. There's been some new occurrences that council will be informed of at the earliest convenience. Any other changes in the addition of the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the exclusion of 8D1. Someone move that, please. Thank you, Don McCollum, seconder. Deputy Mayor Scholdice. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations. Arnie Marsman is with us tonight. Arnie, welcome very much to Southwest Middlesex. We're delighted to see you. And we love it when your back pocket is full of building permits, but you know, turn around, I don't think it is, but it will be. It will be at some point.
Yes, I'm sure it will be at some point. Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, and thank you, Council, for having me today. I'm happy to meet you in person and hope to do this more frequently going forward. Today, I'm here to present to you sort of an orientation or who we are, who your building division is to Southwest Middlesex. Speaking with your clerk, we thought there'd be some value in presenting some building permit information to you, and what your building division does and what we consist of. So building services, I'm just kind of go from our presentation here today. We ensure that new construction meets the building code. New construction can be renovations of existing buildings or construction of new buildings. We issue permits under the Building Code Act for residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, pools, signs, pretty much anything that requires a building permit goes through our office. In Middlesex Center, we also oversee bylaw enforcement services for Middlesex Center and for Loop and Mid-Alton, a shared service agreement. So we do bylaw enforcement there as well. That's all right. So what we can bring to council. We hope that you appreciate the reports we provide. We try to provide a lot of detail for you to infer information from. And if there's something you think you need more from one of our reports, please let me know and we can add some additional tables or information to our building reports. I plan to provide quarterly updates so you know what happens in the previous quarter, and we'll try to get that to you within a month or 6 weeks of the end of the previous quarter. It just takes a little bit of time to get the data together and on the agenda. We also will provide some information and analysis and different expertise on things we'll see in the industry, whether it's planning applications, Pre-consultation with the commercial businesses. We're familiar with a lot of the applicable laws out there, whether it's working with the Ministry of Environment or the conservation authorities and their regulations. We are familiar with those. So our department consists of several individuals. I'm the chief building official. At Middlesex Center, I also have the title of Director of Building Services. And under me, we do have a bylaw enforcement officer who is primarily bylaw enforcement in Middlesex Center and Lucan-Biddulph. We also have a deputy chief building official, 4 building inspectors, and an admin assistant, and also a co-op or a temporary position that assists with small buildings. We work Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Typically, we do inspections in the afternoons, unless there's a real special request. Sometimes a contractor will want to pour concrete or footings in the morning, and we do our best to accommodate that. But to be as efficient as possible, we try to do plans review in the morning, inquiries in the morning, and we do our inspections in the afternoon. And the contractors have generally really had no issues adapting to that. So we provide building services in an agreement across Middlesex County. Our history with Lucan-Biddulph goes back to the year 2000. We've been doing building inspections and septic inspections for Lucan-Biddulph for the past 22, 23 years. We find a lot of efficiencies in doing that. And we were reached out to from Southwest Middlesex, Adelaide, Metcalfe, and North Middlesex a couple of years ago to see if we would be able to expand our service agreement to those municipalities, including obviously yourselves. So we saw a lot of efficiencies in that, and we picked up a couple more staff, and that's where we are today. That today we have us 5 municipalities, and recently this fall, Thames Center has reached out, and we're providing chief building official services to Thames Center as well. They do have inspection staff, but we're also reviewing their work as their chief building official. So 6 municipalities in Middlesex County is who we're working with right now. So this is an overview of what we've done last year. And on your consent agenda, there's also a staff report that outlines some of this information. But in 2022, we issued 1,140 permits, approximate construction value of about 300 million, 284 dwellings, 3 apartment buildings. The town of Lucan, or the village of Lucan, has seen 3 apartment buildings go up there. So we're very excited to see that. It's nice to see that high density in the county. And I guess this is just some comparison of what we've found in Southwest Middlesex and the other municipalities that we provide services to. So under the building code, a number of buildings require building permits. So whether it's a house, a septic, commercial, industrial, agricultural buildings, this is sort of a list of the types of buildings you see that do require building permits. And on the right column, it shows you all the inspections that are typically done. Our busiest type of permit is a house. We're at a house probably a dozen times for different stages of construction, from footings and foundations, and insulation, framing, plumbing. It goes on. Farm buildings, a few less inspections, but more time possibly because of the size of some of those farm buildings. But generally, that's a list of the types of permits that we issue and the types of inspections as well. So recently, 2019, Middlesex Center had moved to electronic permitting processes. We partnered with a firm that came to Canada from Finland. They were looking for, I guess, Finland has a very similar building permitting technology, or sorry, building permitting process that we have here in Ontario. And this firm, it was at the time known as eVolta. They've changed names now to Cloud Permit. They were awarded an RFP to bring an e-permitting solution to the country of Finland. And they were very successful with that. They brought over 250 municipalities into one process, and they wanted to expand their business into Canada, and they found Ontario's market. And in that, they found Middlesex Center in the city of Windsor. So we're proud to say that we're the first in Canada, first in North America to use this technology going live. It took a bit longer for the city of Windsor, but we're very excited about it now because this technology has now swept across Ontario with over 150 municipalities in Ontario alone using it. And they've now gone across Canada and they're into the United States as well. And essentially, what Cloud Permit is it's an online application process. If you choose your municipality, you decide what it is you want to build, and it asks you the right questions about the questions that you will get with the building permit application form. So instead of filling out the building permit application forms, it steps you through it online, and you'll upload the drawings that are required for that type of permit. So we have it established with whatever type of permits you have. If it's a house permit, you need trust drawings and key drawings and a site plan. If it's a farm building, you'll need a few other drawings, not quite as many. So we have it set up now, depending on the type of application you have. Those are the drawings that you need to submit. And it's all done on paper from your house. It's all done online from your house. So there's no paper, there's no traveling time. It's very efficient for the ratepayers and for staff as well, that it's all on our computer. We don't have stand-up files in each township office. We're pleased to say that we're kind of the leading edge of that futuristic permitting system, and it really helped us out in COVID. That was in the summer of 2019. When COVID came in 2020, we didn't miss a beat, where other municipalities were trying to figure out how they're going to deal with paper and the application processes. So let's take a look at this, make sure I included it. Nope. Yeah, so I guess a lot of benefits to the clients, whether it's the public or the municipalities, is everything is uploaded. Your inspections are uploaded. The results, we'll type our inspections into a tablet. The results are instantaneous, sent to the builder. They can schedule schedule their inspections in Cloud Permit for the next day or for whatever day they want the inspection. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you can apply for your building permit after a day at work. You don't have to take time off to go to the office to apply. And it's this great documentation of everything. There's the communication feature. So instead of emailing back and forth with people, there's a message string there that we just add to, and that's kept indefinitely as well. So if somebody has a question and they reach out to one staff member, it's documented in that messaging system that other staff members can see it. So we're not getting different questions or different staff members getting the same question. So, I encourage you to inquire with your ratepayers, people that get building permits, see what they think. First time's the most complicated time. It's like buying something on Amazon. The first time you do it is the hardest. Then after that, it gets pretty easy, and the builders really like it. So we're pleased to say that we're using it here. So just an example of the economic impact that we see. Like I said, 300 million in 2022. It's a bit down from last year. We've seen a bit of a reduction in construction activity last year. The second half of last year was hard, especially with Middlesex Center, because we're very high percentage residential growth, residential development. So as the interest rates went up, construction of new houses dropped instantly. So from about June on last year, there was a big drop in construction of new homes, which really impacted Middlesex Center and I guess the overall construction value of last year. But we're positive, thinking that agricultural didn't seem to be impacted. Commercial, institutional, industrial didn't seem to be as impacted as residential. So we're happy to say the rest of the markets are moving well. So other things that we do, we'll work with farmers with MDS calculations. If you want to set up a new barn, or if someone wants to build a house next to a barn, we'll assist with MDS calculations. We are familiar with records of site conditions. That's a Ministry of Environment requirement for brownfields or reconstruction of commercial sites to residential site. With severance applications, we'll evaluate surplus dwellings, confirm they're habitable, if there's any concerns about their buildings or the servicing. We do provide comments on planning applications, and we work with real estate agents and lawyers with properties being sold and bought, and doing septic searches for them and whatnot. Some key projects right now this year, our goal is in the first half to bring a building bylaw to council. We'd like to have the same building bylaw for our 5 municipalities. Each of us have a bit of an aged building bylaw, and your building bylaw really establishes standards for building divisions. So the notice we require for inspections, the type of drawings that we need. All of our building bylaws right now say you're to submit 2 sets of drawings on paper to the building department. So we're no longer using paper, it's all electronic. So the building bylaw really should reflect what it is we do. So I look forward to going into that in more detail when we do bring the bylaw to council sometime, hopefully in this first half this year. We're also working on an information sheet. Over the last couple of years, our staff put together an information brochure for the residents to use to design wood decks and to design sheds. Our project this year with Bill 23 is to provide an information brochure to the residents of how you can design your own basement apartment, your additional residential unit, or design an additional residential unit in your detached garage. We expect a lot of inquiries. So there'll be some benefit. It'll be less phone calls to staff to explain to homeowners what is needed. And it'll help the homeowners to have an information sheet that they can work from if they want to go ahead with additional residential unit. And we will be working with our municipalities with strategy for closing open building permits. It seems to be a common theme elsewhere, not just in Middlesex County either, but there's a lot of open building permits that need to be closed yet. So we'll be reviewing that with municipalities as well. That's me, my information. You can reach out to me. Our information's on our website. You can contact myself or any of our staff if you have any questions. But I'm open to any questions you have with this. I do have a recording consent agenda I can speak to as well if you have any questions about the year end.
Well, thank you, Arnie. We'll certainly open the floor up for questions. Yes, Councillor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So Arnie, you said you're familiar with Bill 23 and that sort of thing. I just happened to see across the river by Wartsville, there's a zoning amendment where they're going to allow a second house on the farm. So can you comment on that?
So through the mayor, Bill 23 provides for additional residential units or ARUs in areas that have full municipal services. So if you have town water and town sewer, then Bill 23 applies to you and you have a right to have these additional residential units. If you don't have a fully serviced lot, then Bill 23 doesn't apply to that property. Now I understand that Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw may have additional clauses that have some permissions for secondary dwelling units. But I'm not, that's the best I can speak to Bill 23 on that application. I can't speak much more to it specifically, but if it's not on full municipal services, then it wouldn't apply to that property.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Allen. This property is in West Elgin, so just across the, but I happen to see that they're applying for a second residence on a farm and there's no municipal services there.
Yeah, through the mayor, it's I guess that's up to that municipality if they want to accept it or not. I think we have approved an additional residential unit along Woods Road just west of Wardsville last year. So it's not out of line that it's been done elsewhere. So it is possible that they may be doing that there.
And sometimes there's a time period for that residential unit as well, like a 10-year period or something like that. I've seen that before as well. Any other questions? Arnie, if I could have the last one, there's certainly advantages in the digital process for these applications. In the event a small builder has digital difficulty or is not in that spectrum of technology, you come to their assistance in some manner, do you?
Yes, through the mayor. We find right now 95% of the applications are done electronically through Cloud Permit. We would never decline an application on paper. And if somebody, the one-timers, I'll call them, whether it's a farmer with a grain bin or a resident that wants to do a deck or a shed and they apply for one building permit in their life, they don't want to learn Cloud Permit, we'll accept the paper application and we'll do it the old-fashioned way with them. Staff will actually upload the information to Cloud Permit for our own storage system, but they won't miss a beat with their application.
Sounds good. Just hoping everyone's included. That's great. Well, listen, we have had the question period in full. Arnie, I want to thank you very much for coming. Please extend that gratitude to your staff as well. When you see them tomorrow, that we're very appreciative of all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we have delegation 4B from Intact Insurance. This is kind of an annual event, and we're very pleased to have Keith and Tony with us this evening. And please take the chair there, gentlemen. And Keith, welcome to Southwest Middlesex. This gentleman is a resident of Southwest Middlesex, or has been for a while. Are you still a resident? You still live in Southwest Middlesex? Yeah, I thought you might. Yeah.
Thank you. Your worship and counselors, I'd like to thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today. Just to do a quick presentation and familiarize yourselves with some of the insurance components. I'm Keith Crawford. I was born and raised in the community, and I am still a resident.
Good.
I'm employed by McFarland Rowlands Insurance Brokers, and I'm the broker representative that deals directly with the municipality of Southwest Middlesex. I've been doing that since 2017, so I have a pretty good grasp with the staff and the municipality itself. In attendance with me today is Tony Camiso. He is the representative from our partner Intact Public Entities, who is the actual insurance company that is insuring the municipalities. Tony's face may be familiar to some of you. He's in attendance at many municipal functions. So Tony's going over a short presentation today, which is going to highlight some of the components of your insurance as it pertains to the municipal landscape, and some specifics to keep in mind as counselors. That's kind of what our big goal is today. Just some things for you folks to keep in mind. If you have any questions, please ask. We'd be more than happy to answer them. However, if you have any specific questions about the insurance policy or coverages or limits, we'd ask that you'd hold these today. If you can work with Krista McGill of your finance department to get those to her, she will get them to me. And in turn, we'd be more than happy to get those answered for you folks as soon as possible. I'm going to turn things over to Tony.
Thank you, Keith, and Tony, welcome as well. You make yourself at home, and we look forward to what your presentation involves.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Keith, for that introduction. Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Tony Camiso, and I represent Intact Public Entities. I've been in the insurance business for 15 years and 10 years in my current role. My territory starts here in Middlesex County, goes over to Lambton County, and then north to Huron and Perth counties, and then Bruce and Grey counties. So there's 56 different municipalities under my jurisdiction, for which I'm responsible for. And I must say, coming down here, like you say, it's an annual tradition. Hopefully we can keep that tradition going, because I do look forward to coming to council, and thanks for letting us do this in person, because I am tired of doing these over Zoom or Teams or whatever. So as Keith mentioned, full disclaimer, this is a very high level overview of your insurance program. It's not meant to be an in-depth review by any means. There's actually 14 different policies that renew and expire for the municipality on June 1st of every year. We have over $58 million of assets that we have insured with the municipality, and 19 licensed vehicles. So this is a very complex package that gets put together every year, and it's not something that you can just call Geico and get a quote in 15 minutes. Keith and his team takes about 15 weeks dealing with staff to complete applications, answer questions, and whatnot. So it is a rather complex product. So Kendra, I'm gonna get to go. Yeah, let's do it this way. Awesome. Just flip the arrows. Perfect. Thank you. Let's try this one. Oh boy. Okay, missed a slide. That's okay. Bear with me, as technology is not always my friend. Well, I'm going the wrong way. Hang on. Oh geez. I just want to go backwards. This key? Oh, okay. I see what I was doing wrong. Yeah. You'd think after 2 years of Zoom meetings, I'd have this thing figured out. So, Mr. Mayor, I want to start with this slide because this is something that I think every insurance company is really paying attention to, and that's weather patterns. And What was really interesting about 2022 was once again in Canada, we hit over $3.1 billion of insured losses regarding just property losses, insured property losses. And this is the third time in our nation's history that this has ever happened. And that's happening just over the last decade. So in a very short period of time, we're seeing now billions of dollars of property losses across Canada. So in 2013, we had the floods in the GTA in Alberta, which were really bad. We had 2016 was Fort McMurray, which was basically an entire municipality in flames. And then we had last year. What was unique about 2022 was there wasn't just one event that caused a significant amount of loss. It was really spread out. The entire country saw something. The East Coast had the hurricanes, the West had the storms all through the prairies. And then here in Ontario, in Quebec, we had that windstorm back in May. And I don't know if you guys will remember it, but that storm, if you tracked it, it went right through the most populated, dense area of the country. We had 93 claims just in our office. So 93 different municipalities filed a wind claim of some nature. So it was very significant. And it's something that I just want council to be aware of, because I think the first time Keith and I came to council, we talked about cyber and all the worries that we had with cyber liability, but which is still serious and still something municipalities need to be, aware of. But I think insurance companies now are really focusing on weather patterns and climate change, and you can see by the numbers why they care about that. All right, let's try. Nice. All right, got that figured out. Okay. So like I said, there's 14 different policies on the insurance program. I'm only going to talk about 5 tonight. And the first policy is your general liability policy. And this, in my opinion, Mr. Mayor, is probably the most important policy. Now, this policy has very broad limits, as you can see, but this is a policy that would pay or defend, is probably the better word, for any allegations of negligence filed against the municipality. So when I say the municipality, I'm talking about the corporation itself. I'm talking about their employees, the municipal volunteers, and municipal councilors. So again, very broad policy that provides that protection. Now, I say it's the most important policy because this policy, regardless of the size of a municipality or what services they're providing, it gets triggered the most. So it doesn't matter if you're a county or a township or a village, this is the policy that municipalities trigger the most. Not necessarily their fault, it's the one that gets used the most, the ones where we see the most claims. Now, we have a primary limit of $15 million, but we have access and follow form layers that brings your limit up actually up to $50 million. And common claims would be road liability. So allegations of lack of winter maintenance, signage, road design. This policy would, again, defend those allegations of negligence. Slip and falls on any public property, so sidewalks or any of your facilities. And then we would have even sewer backup claims to residents if there's service to their homes. Once they report that claim through the personal insurer, sometimes the municipality will be subrogated against. And again, this is a policy that would be triggered to respond to those allegations. So on the next slide is the non-owned automobile policy. So this particular policy is also a reminder to staff. It basically provides protection for any time the municipality is renting vehicles for under 30 days. This is a policy that would provide additional coverage. Why it's important for councillors: if you are using your personal vehicle for a municipal business, this policy could be triggered after your personal automobile policy limits have been exhausted. So if you're involved in a serious car accident, and again, you're traveling for a municipal business, once you report that claim to your personal automobile insurer, if you are sued or there meets that certain threshold and those policy limits are exhausted, this policy would kick in. Okay, so keep that in mind. And if you are traveling quite a bit for municipal business, driving to conferences or other meetings, it's wise, or my recommendation would be to advise your personal insurer that you are using the vehicle for a municipal business. They might ask you how many kilometers. So I'd maybe ask, you might have to do a rough calculation, and if it is a lot, they might actually charge you for it, but that depends again on the amount of kilometers. The next policy is the counselor's accidental death and dismemberment policy. So there's basically a mini life insurance policy for members of council only. You'll see here there's a death benefit of $250,000 that would be paid to your estate. What's unique about this coverage is Southwest carries 24-hour coverage. So you don't have to be on municipal business to make a claim under this policy. If you are shingling your roof on the weekend and you fall and break your neck, there would be some benefits payable to you. There's an age restriction of 80, not a concern here. But other than that, again, this is just a quick snapshot. There's a slew of other benefits that are paid to you. And like Keith said, if you'd like more information, please reach out to staff. We can provide you a much more detailed breakdown of that. Okay, the next two policies I want to talk about, and these are the last two, they involve basically legal fee reimbursement. So the first policy you see here is a conflict of interest reimbursement policy. So this policy has a limit of $100,000. And if a member of council were to be charged under the Conflict of Interest Act, you may have coverage under this policy to reimburse your legal fees. Okay. On the right-hand side of that slide, there's a bunch of conditions that apply to obtain that additional coverage. Okay. If something like that does happen, again, please notify staff and we can move forward in that way. But again, it's only a legal fee reimbursement policy. And then the legal expense policy. So this particular policy has a higher limit of $250,000. But if a member of council was charged under any statute law, including human tribunals, this is the policy that would, again, defend you as a counselor. It's also broad in the sense that it covers employees and volunteers as well. So again, if there's a charge, let's say under the Ministry of Labor, a charge came through, this is the policy that would, again, reimburse the legal fees for those charges. What's different between this policy and your general liability policy is that your general liability policy basically covers property damage and bodily injury claims, whereas this policy is reimbursing legal fees for charges under statute law. So depending on how the lawyers craft the statement of claim would determine which policy would respond in which allegation. Okay, so I'm doing pretty good for time, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to flip to the second part of my presentation, which, I forgot the most important slide. Excuse me. This slide is just a reminder to staff of our risk management department and the services that they offer. This is unique to Intact Public Entities. No other public entity insurer does this. So it's something that I personally am trying to promote more or just educate council about. Your staff are well aware of these services. Obviously, your broker is. Just some of the things there that we do. Probably the most utilized service would be contract reviews. So anytime you're negotiating a contract with a third party, staff would send that contract over to Keith, and Keith and my team would review it to see if the insurance clause A makes sense and that the municipality is asking for the right type of insurance and the right limits. And we would also have our paralegal review it to see should there be a hold harmless in place, what kind of indemnity agreements are within that contract. So again, it's a value added service. There's no additional charge for it. It's just included in your package. The last point is the day-to-day risk guidance. So, Keith and I are not lawyers. We don't charge by the hour. So anytime staff have an inquiry or there's maybe some type of risk assessment they would like, they just call or email us and we'll deal with it usually within the same day. So again, that's value-added services that I'm trying to promote more. There's also a link to our risk management website if you'd like to educate yourself more on checklists and articles and case studies about strategies that municipalities can use to reduce claims. That's your best website. It's loaded with information again, and it's completely free and accessible to staff and council. So now moving to the next part of my presentation, and this is talking about basically a summary of what a member of council should say or do in the event that you may be approached in the event of a potential claim. I'll try and be as quick and direct as possible, but if you are by any means the first point of contact for a potential loss that someone has suffered, you have to remember, you're put in that seat for a reason. People trust you. You're a good listener. You were elected for a reason. So people are going to come to you when something happens. They may be seeking some type of reimbursement. That makes sense. But I think what's important as a counselor to remember is that these incidences are, yes, they're unfortunate, but it doesn't mean that you are responsible or that the municipality is responsible for that loss. But more importantly, it just means that you may not be legally liable. And because you may be that first point of contact, how you handle that situation could impact the final resolution of the potential insurance claim. So like I said, what can you do? Obviously, you're going to listen. That's just human nature. What I advise you would be to document that conversation. So this person comes to you, obviously they'll be upset. Document the conversation. I'm not saying you have to sit there with a pen and paper and write down everything they're saying, but take a moment after that conversation to reflect, write yourself an email or a notepad, whatever it is. Just make those notes. You can still ask questions. What are they seeking? What do they want? What's the outcome they're looking for? I always say you can offer empathy, but you can't offer any money in the situation in any sense. But most importantly, if there's anything you're going to take away from this presentation tonight, just don't admit fault. Okay, as hard as that may be, it's just please do not admit any fault in any situation. And the reason being is it's going to prejudice the insurer's position to complete their investigation. So like I said, make a document of some type or record that conversation and then report it to the appropriate staff member. Again, feeling responsible doesn't mean that you are technically legally liable to pay out in any monetary funds. If the media approaches you, so this is common now. I mean, with technology, it's very easy to get a hold of you. Your pictures are on the website, your addresses, your phone numbers, you're very approachable. I always say, if you can, never mention the claim in any sense. Refrain from commenting on the situation if you can. And the reason being is you could breach some privacy laws by talking about the claim to the media in any way. So again, just listen to the person, document the conversation, report it to staff. If you're contacted by media, it's been reported to staff. That's all I can comment on. An investigation is taking place. How your insurance policy works. Again, your general liability policy will agree to pay on behalf for compensatory damages, which you're obligated to pay through liability imposed by law. So that means your insurance policy can only pay if a judge says so, or if it's deemed appropriate through the court of law. You don't have the authority to access funds through your insurance policy to pay for someone's loss. Again, please do not admit liability. I hope you can take that message home from tonight's presentation. You must cooperate with the insurer. So sometimes during a claim process, depending on your involvement within that particular situation, you may have to make a statement. You may be called to examinations of discovery. So it's important that during that progress or life of the claim that you cooperate with our lawyers and our adjusters and any information that they may be requesting. So I think this is the last slide, but the claim process. So again, you're going to listen to that conversation, document it, report it to the appropriate staff. Staff then report it to the broker, who's Keith, who's here. Keith, with his experience, he may be able to use his experience to either decide whether or not it's something that should even be reported, will even trigger a policy that we have insured. And then if it does meet all that criteria, it then becomes our responsibility to do the investigation, to take photographs, to get statements, and to ask staff for records, to build a defense for the claim depending on the situation. It's also our responsibility to keep staff informed on the life of that claim. And we have different avenues of doing that. So I included an example, Mr. Mayor. Do you think it's worth to go through this example, or should I just wrap things up and take any potential questions that council may have? It's up, I'll leave that to
Tony,
you.
we've got about 5 minutes left in your presentation, if you can do that,
Yeah.
or
think I
bring
can.
it to a conclusion.
I'll talk as fast as I can. How about that? So here's an example. Just didn't happen here or anywhere. We just made this up, but it is something common that we do potentially see this eventually, becoming more common, especially with the amount of building permits that, Arnie was talking about happening. So municipality hires a contractor to do some work, fixing a water main. Municipality has a contract in place. There's an indemnity agreement, hold harmless, insurance requirements, the whole bit. While the contractor's doing that work, something bad happens. All of a sudden, a resident within a subdivision has a flooded basement. Well, that's a good example. There's a significant damage to that person's property, so automatically they're gonna feel that someone else is going to be responsible for that. So this resident's going to report this potential claim to the municipality. The municipality then goes through the claim process, right, that we just talked about. But before we can complete our investigation and hire an adjuster to again, get statements, take photographs, and understand the situation, somebody on council decides to say, oh no, we'll pay for that loss. We were doing work there and it was because of our work that you suffered a loss. When we did complete our investigation, it was determined that actually it was the contractor who was at fault. So they're the ones who should be liable to make that payment. So now, instead of the municipality being able to have a pretty straightforward claim on your general liability policy, you're gonna have to go to small claims to try and recoup any of this money. And the point being, if we just followed that claim process, the municipality wouldn't have been out any money because the contractor would be the one responsible to pay out that potential loss. Very simple example, but again, just in the sense, when someone approaches you, it's okay to listen and document, but then please report that incident to staff. And there's a process in place to get the claim moving forward. I'm good, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Tony. We have time for questions, I hope, and that's was part of the process. Council opened the horseshoe to questions to Tony through the chair. Okay. Tony, you must be looking after as well. I don't see a lot of hands up, but one question. Yes, Don, please go ahead, Councilman Collins. Yep.
Yes, to the mayor, to Tony, what happens if you're 80 years old? What are you supposed to do?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This does happen once in a while, and we would remove that individual if they are above the age of 80 from the accident policy that they were referring to.
We'll have to have a talk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you're probably as tough as any one of us around here, Don. Yeah. Tony, serious question. It may appear lighthearted, but volunteerism in Southwest Middlesex is extremely important, and it will become more important as we go through the future. You mentioned volunteers very briefly at one point of your presentation. Is there some type of process for volunteers to volunteer and do their charity for Southwest Middlesex, a registration or a documentation of where and what they're doing, and I'm thinking of many people. We have garbage pickups, we have flower beds they're working on, we have events, craft events, things like that that volunteers sometimes put on. And I can mention, without mentioning too many names, like the Horticultural Society, Canada Day committees, things like that. Any response to volunteerism?
Great question. Yeah, without volunteers, what kind of community would you have, right? So yes, there's a lot of protection for volunteers. We have to deem them municipal volunteers, Mr. Mayor. So we need them to be under the direction, supervision of the municipality.
Okay.
It's a very broad term. We don't need a list of volunteers. We don't need an annual list of who's doing what. We just need the municipality to be involved in screening the volunteers and providing direction to them. We do have articles and checklists on our website that can help staff negotiate those procedures when it comes to volunteers. So I can pass those articles to Keith and
That'd be great.
Certainly.
I'd love to see them on my desk sometime. Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, well, Keith, I want to thank you very much on behalf of McFarland Roland. Tony, thank you for your participation as well. And we look forward to seeing you on just service chats, not on serious claims business. Okay, so take care, drive safely. Council, we are done the presentations now. May I have a motion to accept the CBO Building Council Orientation Report for information only? Is there a mover? Thank you very much, Councilor Choi. A seconder for that, Councilor Vink. Discussion? All in favor? Thanks again, Arnie, for that. And if I could have a motion to receive the Intact Insurance Council Orientation as well, a mover for that, please. Councilor Myers, the seconder. Councilor McCollum, discussion. All in favor that it be received for information. Thank you. Council, the consent agenda is in front of you, 5A to 5H. I'll go through them briefly, and if any councilor wants to discuss it, make a easy resolution, we can do it at the time of this section of the agenda. If it's serious work that you want done on something, we'll have to move it to new business. Southwest Middlesex Council meeting, January 18th, 2023, and the meeting of January 25th, 2023. Southwest Middlesex vouchers, 5B. And I thank council again for your inquiries in advance of this meeting. 5C, Southwest Middlesex fourth quarter building report. 5D, Town of Petrolia resolution, school board elections. 5E, four counties budget adoption. Yes, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. Do we know how much we contribute to that?
Kristen, you might be able to answer that question.
Yes, sorry. The 2023 budget amount would be 18,300. Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, Dawn, you got your hand up there?
Yeah, that's just for 288 riders too. And the ridership is way down. It's come back up this
Yep.
year,
Mhm.
but it's very costly.
It is, yeah, at many levels. I've seen it at the county level as well. COVID-19 has some ramifications in that ridership, but I do think Southwest Middlesex is still one of the
They're the
primary,
top, they're the
yeah,
top.
primary riders. Yeah, but transportation in rural areas is expensive. There's no question. We have limited populations, but the needs is certainly there. 5F, Brook Alviston Fire Board draft budget. They look like they need money. You bet. I guess. Hey, Councillor Choi, go ahead.
Thank you. Do you know how much we contribute to that one as well? I did reach out to the treasurer there. He is out of the office right now due to a family emergency. So I can tell you that in previous years, we've contributed about 26 to 28,000. Thank you. Mhm.
And 5G, Middlesex London Health Unit, Board of Health meeting summary. Oh, Martin, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just,
In regards to Brook Alviston Fire Department, we can back up.
yes, last year was a little bit more than previous because there was renovations to the extra building, and also that they're buying a new fire truck, purchasing a new fire truck, and that's going to be added on to this year. So prior to last year, their costs were very reasonable.
So they like our own departments have to keep up with safe equipment. Okay, I'll glance around again. No more questions. We've got the MLHU, Middlesex London Health Unit summary there. And St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, their highlights of 2022. Any questions? The chair will entertain a motion that council for Southwest Middlesex receive the consent agenda items. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McGill, seconder. Councillor Myers, thanks. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Item number 6 on your agenda, Committee of Adjustments. I have not been advised of any, and Kendra, I'll just check you. I see your head shaking there. Public meetings, none. Staff reports fire. I don't believe there's any. And Kendra, just speak up. Administration, we're okay. Building, we're okay. Finance, as we indicated at the first of the meeting, number 1 is on hold. We'll discuss that at another time. And Kristen, if you could, no, I think you're okay. Kristen, there's nothing else on there. Okay. And we have operations. Who will be giving that? Online, on our television scene. I thought he was a movie star up there. Yeah. Very photogenic. Andrew, go ahead. You've got 3 drains here that you're going to get down to business on.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first one is the Gardner drain. The background has come before staff that the alignment of the Gardner drain in the area of the abandoned tracks near Parkhouse Drive is not serving the upstream landowners as well as it could. It is believed that the current alignment is a result of the culvert under the rail property when there were tracks. It is the common practice to install a culvert under roads and rail beds, perfect perpendicular to the tracks. This allows for keeping the culvert as short as possible. This would allow for savings in cost. Recently, the culvert has been removed as a result of it was no longer useful in the sense that it had the bottom had rotten out of it. And as a result, it wasn't replaced because the corridor wasn't used as a railroad anymore. So it was dug down to an open ditch. And the analysis as a request under 78 was submitted with affected landowner signatures. The request asked to realign the ditch, providing a more direct route for the water to travel in the drain. Given most of the landowners that would be involved have signed, it would be reasonable to forego a scoping meeting. However, it is still reasonable to send out notices to everyone on the drain just to allow them to know that there's been a request submitted. And if there should happen to be any work that's needed downstream, this is a good opportunity for them to put forward a request. So that brings it to the recommendation. It is staff's recommendation that council accept the request filed under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for Concession 1, Range 1 of Lot 19 and 20 to realign a part of the Gardner drain, and that the drain superintendent contact St. Clair Region Conservation Authority and other regulatory authorities to ensure legal compliance, and that staff send out notices to inform landowners involved, indicate scope of the project.
Thank you, Andrew. Council, are there any questions prior to receiving a mover and a seconder? Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Andrew, I know I was talking to the one person that has property further down the drain. Now this drain goes quite a ways, so when you say downstream, how many owners are you going to be contacting all the owners on that drain or just a few of them?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it would be reasonable to contact everyone just to be sure, so that no one is left out, so that no one can say that they were ignored during the process.
Okay, that sounds fair. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Can this work be done without using an engineer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. When it comes to realigning a municipal drain, it does have to be done under Section 78. It does seem rather insignificant what is being proposed here. However, there would have to be some work done to the bank of the drain to ensure that it doesn't fail if we're realigning it. So it is more than just a matter of scooping some out and that's it. As much as I would like to do it under maintenance, it would fall under Section 78 improvement.
Thank you. Any further questions? Don, go ahead.
Yes, through Mayor to, there's a problem there. It's the lower Thames you're going to be getting at SWM, not the St. Clair.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I got thinking about that just recently, and I did get the two mixed up. It does go into the Thames River. It is, you are correct in that.
And it looks like the culvert maybe have to be replaced there on the road there too, because it's getting pretty rusty. I think this is going to be a bigger job than you think.
It, through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe. I did walk through that culvert a couple of times already. There is surface rust on that culvert. The galvanizing is gone. However, the culvert is rather thick, and there does seem to be a significant amount of steel left. It is my own assessment that it could have many years left. However, it wouldn't hurt for the engineer to take an assessment during the process.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, any further questions? Council recommendation is before you regarding the realignment of the drain, the Gardner drain. It's been circulated, and before you, is there a mover and a seconder to accept the report? Deputy Mayor Scholdice moved it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Myers, last call for questions. Yes, Kendra, please go ahead.
Should the recommendation be changed then to the lower Thames rather than the St. Clair?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you're good with that?
Yep. Okay. All in favor of the recommendation as corrected? Carried. Andrew, proceed with number 2 of 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report that you have before you is an addition onto an existing project. The background: last year on an on-site meeting was held for the enclosure of part of the Murray Houston drain. After the meeting, the owner of Range 1 north of Longwoods Road, Lot 16, submitted a request to reconstruct the branches of the Murray Houston drain. It has been a lengthy process with Department of Fisheries and Oceans regarding the process for the enclosure of a portion of the drain with regards to the species at risk that could be in the open ditch. Regardless of where that portion of the project stands, it is reasonable that reconstruction of the existing enclosed portion of the drain move forward. And so this is where staff would recommend that council accepts and appoints Spreet and Associates under Section 78 of the Drainage Act to produce a report to reconstruct the branches of the drain based on the request received, and that Spreet and Associates add this to the ongoing project under 78 of the Drainage Act.
Thank you, Andrew. Council, any questions on the Murray Houston drain and the report that has been presented? Seeing no questions, the chair will ask that the recommendation be accepted. Mover to seconder, please. Councillor Vink moved it. A seconder. Councillor McGill, questions? Yes, go ahead, Councillor McCollum.
Just a question, did he not, tile all that, 2 years ago? And now he wants to put the main drain down through all that new tile?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, he did tile that recently. He did indicate that he put his own headers on either side of the existing municipal drain that's there. This would allow for the destruction and replacement of the drain in between those headers.
All right,
Don't make much sense. But for the horse, go ahead.
Okay, any further questions? It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor of the recommendation? All opposed? Motion is carried. And Andrew, we have in the township of Mosa for the Simpson Outlet Agreement drain. If you'd like to give that report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a little bit unorthodox, I will admit. However, given the circumstances, I think with the explanation, it will make sense. The background, it has come to staff's attention that there is erosion damage pertaining to a historic agreement drain, a handshake agreement drain. The owner has been patching sinkholes through his own property, but is requesting a more permanent solution to the situation. The options were discussed. The number one option would be petition for a municipal drain, which this council has seen, or go through the Drainage Act to construct an agreement drain. The affected landowner would prefer to go through the agreement drain process. As a result, there has been already an estimate put together with costs and materials. The analysis, the landowner has his own tile system apart from this drain that does not need to connect into this outlet. The catch basin in the map that I've provided in question is exclusively for the road and the ditch water, the road ditch water. An agreement drain with the abutting landowner would provide legal status as well as an outlet for the road culverts. The agreement would be registered on title, thereby affording all parties protection and enforcement. So that means once the drain is constructed, this would allow for legal outlet. And if there was any issues with that drain, no matter what happens, the municipality would be able to look after that. And so the final financial implications, if there was a petition for a municipal drain under the Drainage Act, staff anticipates that most of the cost, including the additional engineering costs, would fall onto the road authority, given the nature of a road outlet. Since there is no benefit to the landowner's property, staff feels that the best course of action would be for the road authority to cover the full cost of the drain replacement under an agreement drain. It's at this point that staff recommends that council authorize staff to execute an agreement with the owners of part lot 2, range 2 of the former Mosa Township for the Simpson Outlet Agreement Drain.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there any questions from council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that staff be authorized to execute an agreement in regard to the Simpson drain. Simpson Outlet. I almost called you Vice President, Deputy Mayor Scholdice, and second, Councillor Vink. Yeah. All in favor? Carried. Council, we are at, thank you, Andrew, very much. And before we move on for your reports tonight, it's always a pleasure. Thank you. And always well done. Section 9, notice of motion. I have not been advised of any. Correspondence and petitions. I have not been advised by any. There is no unfinished business to deal with. We have no items removed to deal with from correspondence. Number 13, County Council and Conference updates. I have submitted a report, a conference report. It is with staff and it will be on the next agenda. Okay, announcements. Any announcements? Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Allen. This is more appropriate for new business. I thought maybe you were going to mention new business, but I happened to see today on Facebook that Southwest Middlesex is hiring someone for children multi-sport program leader starting February 21st, 2023. And so I did think that was quite right, because what we were told last year was that any new hire was either had to be approved by the budget or some other method. And this is the first I heard of it.
Okay, yep. And have you directed that question to staff at all?
Well, it was just on Facebook today, this
Okay,
afternoon,
yep.
and I noticed it.
Yep.
And so I'm just bringing it up. Maybe they want to give a report, but anyway, I don't think this was ever mentioned in any budget meeting last year.
Okay, well, I'm going to pass it on to Kristen. She's most primary one that would have the most knowledge on this. Kristen, you want to take a stab on it, or do you want to?
No, I can answer that
Okay.
pretty quickly. This is not, it's not a staff member. It's a contract for somebody to come in, and we would pay them just by the hour. They're not an employee. It would be included with the rec programming budget.
Okay, yes. Follow-up question, Martin, go ahead.
Okay, well, that still doesn't satisfy me. I mean, because it still should be approved through the budget process. That's it's still a contract position. And we're having a budget meeting soon.
Yep,
So,
Kristen may be able to clarify that. Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Yes, it's not a contract position. It would be, it is included in the budget. It would be similar to us hiring somebody to mow the lawns. It would be similar to that. We have no obligation as far as employment goes there.
Hmm. Like a yoga instructor or anybody
Absolutely.
else. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Okay. We are still on announcements here. Any others in your wards? Any events? Any concerns? Just notify council that there's always a remembrance of the War of 1812, Battle Hill at the Memorial Cenotaph there. That is on March 5th, 2023. And I believe it starts around 2 o'clock. Okay. All right, we can move on. I see no other hands. No closed sessions. Kendra? Bylaws, there are a couple. Being a bylaw to appoint a weed inspector for the municipality of Southwest Middlesex. Yes, Deputy Mayor, please go ahead.
I've been asked this by a ratepayer, so I'm just forwarding it along. I just wondered if we could clarify who pays for this service and what is the process if somebody has a complaint.
Yes, Go ahead. This would be,
Yes, so this is paid through the county levy and you would do your complaint through the county. Yeah, so on the website, he is a contact. I looked today. He's a contact.
Our contact or his contact?
Yep, his con. And if they need it, they can reach out to me. I will note that once this appointment, if approved by council, it will go in the paper in a joint advertisement as per the Weed Control Act with Adelaide Medcap.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? And 16B, the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this meeting of February 8th. Anyone entertain a motion to accept the bylaws as presented? Councillor Choi, seconder, Councillor McCollum. Last call for discussion. All in favor? Carried. Future meetings, February 11th, 7 p.m. Wednesday, subject to change, and Wednesday, March 8th, 7 p.m. Subject to change. Council, thank you very much for being with us this evening and the efficiency